Alright, this is Iron Man 78, which I nearly called 76. Wouldn't that have been embarrassing for me personally? This is the first issue of Iron Man, which is written by Bill Bungalow. It is a fill-in issue, but he will take over writing the series about a year after this. This retells Iron Man's origin, which I didn't call Origines anymore, because it got tiresome. This is one of many fill-ins on this series during this period. To be honest, this just wasn't a good time for Marvel. 1971 to 1975. It wasn't their best offerings. Not so much the stories. There were a lot of bad stories, but we had loads of fill-ins, loads of reprints, loads of missed deadlines, loads of writers leaving before finishing their story. Basically, behind the scenes, it was a bit of a shambles. Then you have the comics themselves, which there are some stories and some books that are totally okay, but a lot of them were really floundering, and you had Gary Conman and Steve Engeltine on a huge portion of the titles. Just not a high point of Marvel's lifetime, in my opinion. I haven't even said what this is filling in for yet, and I have something else to say. Vietnam. Iron Man's backstory is set in Vietnam. How happy are we all that Kurt Busiek and Martin Quaid have retconned any stories with Vietnam, the Gulf War, the War on Terror, even some World War II. They are now all a fictional war in a fictional country. Two sad, petty men who spent 20 fucking years trying to get a retcon and a supposed fix into print. If anything, I can't too soft on Kurt Busiek on this channel. He has made so many stories, again, fucking hollow mockeries, with a fucking fictional war in a fucking fictional country. World outside me window, my arse. I've never gotten why people can't just suspend their disbelief on references to real world events. Nobody is fucking pulling their hair out over Spider-Man casually name dropping Sophia Loren as a celebrity in the Silver Age. Nobody has come along and gone, we need to explain that, and then introduced a fucking fictional celebrity who exists in the current age, also called Sophia Loren, so Spider-Man isn't tied to the 60s anymore. People are not idiots. When they read a comic from the 60s and there's references to the Shirelles, they're not going, well, that's the comic ruined because I cannot pretend it is set in 2022 anymore. Yeah, there are ridiculous things like Mr. Magnet has to be about 89 now, but just didn't refer to it. I am willing to believe that Mr. Magnet is 60 indefinitely, despite him being a child in the 1940s. I find people hung up on the Marvel timeline to be quite funless. They are okay with people flying or transforming into whatever, but if the dates in a fictional world didn't line up, that is the breaking point for them. Look at it this way. Who are the pricks so bothered by it that they feel the need to create a fictional war to explain away Iron Man's origin and Punisher's origin and any other character who has a backstory tied to a war. Kurt Busey and Martin Quaid, and probably Tom Beevort. I don't know if he edited any of that shite. I will assume he did because I ate him. Anyway, to finally talk about this sodden issue, I didn't realise I had so much to bark about the Marvel timeline. This here is one of many fill-ins during the War of the Supervillains. War of the Supervillains was the epitome of early Bronze Age Marvel. We have a story that sounds great and sounds like it should be fun, but it is limited by the lack of talent or the lack of ambition or commitment or the lack of dedication. I don't know. The majority of writers in the early 70s at Marvel, it felt they were doing it for cash. It was a job. I'm not saying the guy who wrote those Iron Mans was just in it for the money, but the people around him, the editor maybe, there was definitely someone involved in that story who was only in it for the paycheck. War of the Supervillains falls flat due to its length, the constant fill-ins, and that it doesn't know what to do. The War of the Supervillains involves about 4 or 5 villains. Only 2 of them are really important. There's loads of stories in the Bronze Age where you have an idea or a premise or even just a title that evokes excitement because it sounds fun or fresh, but then it just cops out and goes nowhere. So this is filling in for another late issue, and the reason we often got issues like this that retold a character's origin was because back then there wasn't any collections, and often there would be letters asking about seeing the character's origins again. So a retelling like this, or a plain reprint sometimes, it would be done to satisfy readers. It is only now when we have all these issues available to us in collected editions or in digital libraries that they become very redundant. I think Iron Man's origin is the weakest of the major Marvel characters. There's just not enough there. The only thing really is the irony. The weapons developer who gets injured by his own weapon. That's about it. That's the only remarkable thing about his origin in my eyes. And the oddest thing is it is one of the least retconned of Marvel origins. Jason Byrne retconned it only slightly to insert Yellow Peril as a background presence. That is all that I can really think of that has been changed about it. Besides the Vietnam War being updated and then changed entirely. An issue like this works quite well if you were to single out Bill Bungalow's run, because it means that his run on Iron Man handily began with a retelling of his origin. But I do feel like I have cheated you a bit and not talked much about the actual contents. And I blame Iron Man's backstory for that. There just isn't much depth to it. There's not all that much to talk about with regards to how he became Iron Man. I have always considered Iron Man to have a DC style origin. It is something that you can quickly recap in a few panels, maybe a page. Like the Flask's origin is he was struck by lightning. You can cover that in a single flashback panel. Whereas someone like Spider-Man or Hulk, they have origins that I guess you can be disingenuous and say that their main backstory can be done in a single panel too. But you would be cutting out a lot of important growth with Spider-Man or much of Hulk's story to just say that he was caught in an explosion. Anyway, here is a splash page image of Iron Man. This is adequate, so I give it 7 thumbs up.